Sim Racing Dan here at Infineon the Star Mazda, about to have my best start ever. Here it is! Great launch! I make one pass, two passes, three passes! Man, does it get any better than that? Now, that may have happened partially because I started pretty far in the back, but still pretty exciting and awesome launch for me. As you can see, I've brought the little race inset feature that I did for some ISRA videos into this one because a lot of the action happens behind me. So here you'll really get a sense for what's going on, and I think this is something I'll keep doing because I think it really enhanced the video. I do recommend that you watch this in at least 720p, by the way. Break it out into its own window and make it big so you can see what's happening. So we are now here on lap 1 at Infineon, and I've brought myself up from 12th to 8th position just through the awesome start. Getting a bit slowed down by traffic here, but everyone's navigating it really nicely. And we've got a great little pack going on. There's a good challenge there, but oh, off! And off? Does it matter? No. I don't think any spot changes were made, position changes, but there, that blue one, which I can't tell who it is because there are just so many cars packed up right here. I think it was Andrea. It was Andrea, and I'll tell you how I know that later on. So Andrea had a little bit of trouble around that horseshoe. I went a little bit too far on the inside there, almost getting sideways. And off over onto the right with Laust, I believe. No, Laust is behind me, so he didn't have the off. Anthony challenging me on the left-hander, but then giving me the corner ultimately. Lots of excitement going on here. But now I've got a little bit of breathing room. I also like the inset because it lets you see exactly what, this is 0.9 seconds behind me that Anthony is, and you can see exactly what 0.9 seconds means by including the inset. And Andrea right on his tail. Pair of 180-degree turns at this track. A lot of people don't like this this track in Infineon, and I must admit it's a heck of a challenge. It's mostly the hill parts that where I suddenly lose grip and have a heck of a time getting through them that I have the most trouble. Coming through here, I'm probably slow in this braking zone, but taking it real easy to go through and have a nice good exit where I can get the throttle down really soon. Yeah. And get the best start down onto the straight. Here's where it starts to lose grip, and what right there, right in here, I am just on the edge, and you can't tell from the inset in the lower left. That was the other thing that I find so interesting. Right here, barely keeping it on the track, and yet when you look at the TV view, the external view, it looks just like it does on TV. So whenever you see cars in races on TV and it looks like they're not trying very hard or not on the edge, trust me, they are. Heading down the left-hander down off the slope, and Anthony has caught right up to me at this point, and we'll be looking for a passing spot. This left-hander here always catches me up because it's important not to go too fast through there because you want the real speed to come on that right-hander. So if you go through too fast through the left-hander, you have to slow for the right-hander, and the right-hander is the one that leads to this long, curvy straight where you're going to get all your time. So compromise corner is the word of the day, and leave that left-hander there a little bit slower than you might otherwise. On to lap 4 now, and picking up my pace. It looks like I did a 128 there. I was pretty slow here, as you could tell by my qualifying position, although I think this was the upper split. nevertheless slower by a couple seconds. I'm really not sure how those people get the speed at this track. Again, I've never been a good hot lapper, and I tend to make equally or better than my personal best laps during the race, as I do in qualifying or in practice. So it's good that I'm consistent and I've got the speed that way, but as always, not a hot lapper and not as fast as many other people are able to be. Maybe some of that comes down to the setup. I have to confess, I don't really tweak setups too much. I tend to find a bunch of setups from people on the forums, try them out, decide which one I like the most, maybe make a couple adjustments if I can feel something is obviously off, you know, like brake bias, or if the rear has too little grip, I might lower the rake a little bit, lower the rear suspension. But aside from that, I don't really tweak them too much. Anthony really on my tail here. Again, looking for that place to pass. It's not too easy at this track because a lot of it is narrow and there aren't too many straights. Coming into this uphill, this right-hander is where it's very easy to lose grip on the rears. And again, coming in through this left-hander, you lose grip, at least it feels to me like you lose grip as you go through the turn. But what I've found is I'm happiest when I enter fast and let off the gas, because my fronts seem to have fairly good grip on those two turns on the uphill, on the right-hander and the left-hander. But it's my rears that I've always been losing it. So if I keep off the throttle, but I bring the speed into the turn and let it scrub off just a little bit as I go through the turn, then I'm finding myself happiest that way. Happiest here meaning both fastest and safest. Best of both worlds. Looks like I've made a little bit of a gap, not quite a second here, between me and Anthony. Got myself up to 5th position now at this point. It looks like, hey, they're up ahead of me. There was some position changing, which is great. So my 5th position now, starting from 12th, is, so I got to 8th from the start, and it looks like 3 people have dropped out already in just starting lap 6 here. And I go off! Oh, that is exactly what Anthony was waiting for, that mistake. Andrea must have made his own mistake because he's several seconds behind me at this point, and he could have probably taken advantage of that mistake I made had he not made one of his own. An off that I was able to recover from pretty easily, kept it straight. You know, that's a place where it's easy to go into the wall, but nevertheless, an off that hurt. Lost me position, and now we fast forward to lap 8. Skipped just a lap or so. Heading through the first 180. Anthony under a second behind, or Andrea rather, under a second behind me. Anthony 3.5 seconds ahead of me, having made that pass during my off. I don't think he's gained too much, but let's keep an eye on his time and see how much faster than I am he is, and how much I was slowing him down, keeping him behind me like that. Good entry there, keeping to the left, and then diving into the right. That's where the hill is the most favorable. There again, that right-hander is another place where I found... Oh! And Andrea hits me. Knocks my right rear on the right-hander there, under braking. And that, again, has adjusted my car for the worse. And you can see I'm now fighting and trying to feel out the grip and seeing what I can do with it. The wheel is turned a little bit to the left. So once again, Here I am on lap 9 of, what is this, 30, is that 38? Oh man, that's going to be a lot of laps. Fast forwarding to lap 13. Got the car pretty much under control. Anthony at this point is way ahead of me, and oh, that too much gas on that bent right-hand rear tire, and Mark Ursel makes the pass as I fortunately recover, but again lose time. You know, one thing that I've seen, obviously, is plenty of people going off on this track and other tracks. And recovery is really a key element that people should practice. You should actually practice getting yourself into trouble just to see how you can get out of it. Take a corner too fast, find yourself going off into the dirt, you know, start a spin, and see if you can straighten yourself out without spinning and without hitting the wall. It's great practice for races because even though it's very whoa, that adjustment to my car giving me a trouble as I go up the hill, didn't get a very good line through there. And on lap 15 now with Dirk right behind me, coming through the 180. Cars look almost exactly the same, so if you look at the color scheme, I'm the one with the brown side and he's the one with the green side, but other than that, we've just sort of got an inverted color scheme with the same colors there. So I was saying it's great to practice making mistakes and recovering, because even though you may not ever win a race, it's unlikely that you'll win a race if you have made a mistake. It's definitely going to keep you in the top, potentially the top 2 or 3. And it'll keep you in the finishers, at least. Which is more than I can say for plenty of people here. I'm taking it a bit easy here on this lap because for the past several, that right rear has thrown me for a bit of a loop. It's somewhat unpredictable. I'm able to push it fairly hard and get some decent times, but then all of a sudden it'll just surprise me and start me into a spin. Didn't get a very good exit on that downhill. Dirk, I told him to pass because I could see I was holding him up. So I communicated just pass on the braking zone, and he did quite happily. Puts me into 9th position now. Still having started at 8th. That's not terrible. I'm sorry, it's 28 laps, not 38. Good. So that puts us at a little past halfway. And Dirk puts the hammer down too hard, recovers, but finds himself behind me again. And my general rule is that if I let you go, that's going to be your one pass, whether I'm being lapped or, in this case, where it's for position. I'll let you go once, but if you fall behind me, then it's up to you to make a safe pass, a real pass, where I don't just let you go by. Oh, and there I just ignored my own policy and let Dirk by again. I guess because of the damage, I felt like I was significantly enough off pace in strange ways that it wasn't quite the same situation as if I had an undamaged car, because I was slow in ways that Dirk wouldn't have to be. So now I'm back into 9th position, and Laust behind me by 3 seconds. Here at lap 18, finishing lap 17. I'm going to cough. Excuse me for a moment. There we are. And Laust keeping about the same distance. Dirk also not really getting a whole lot farther ahead of me yet. Heading into the left-hander and fighting with the wheel to keep it going. And jumping now to lap 25, where Laust has pulled up pretty close behind me. I don't see Dirk ahead of me at all, so I think he must have bailed. Probably hit the wall or something. So, you know, sometimes when you let someone by, and particularly if you see them do something like Dirk's exit there, then it's the best thing for you. You don't get caught up in their accident, hopefully, but they can just get rid of themselves. They take care of themselves. So, Laust, just about a second behind me here as we head into the second 180. With the leaders somewhere behind us, so there is some lapped traffic coming up ahead of me, Oscar. So I'm not the last car, and neither is Laust, but we are third from last. It looks like Oscar's in 10th position. We're in 7th and 8th. So there's one other car wandering around the track alone, somewhere else. And I'm fighting to keep Laust off my tail. So far doing a decent job, though as I watch the timing on my F3 panel here, I can see that there are parts of the track where I'm faster than he is and parts of the track where he's faster than I am. So it's a question of who can put together that lap where they fix their problems and you know, get that one lap where you do it just right. That's going to make the half-second difference that's going to close the gap, or in my case, that's going to extend the gap to something safe. Looks right now like Laust is doing decently, but as I head down onto the straight, he's back down to 1.3, 1.4 seconds behind me, so he had gotten down to 1.1, now he's at 1.7, 1.4. It's tough to tell because it's not the most accurate gauge, but it gives you a decent idea. And 1.2 seconds, 1.3 seconds as we head around the 180. And here is Oscar, the lap traffic. And now I've got Alexander in 9th position ahead of me. Another lapped car. He's a good 25 seconds ahead, however, so it's unlikely that I'm going to catch up to him in this race. Laust keeping up again in the mid 1.5s behind me. An error on my part will be the end of this battle, so I'm taking it nice and easy. I'd rather have him behind me. I have the advantage here because he not only has to be faster than me, but he also has to pass me. Oh, I take a bit of a fast or long braking into that 180, but it looks like it didn't, well, it looks like it may have hurt a little bit. Went too fast through the left-hander and had to brake a little bit for the right-hander. Somewhat slow there. I'm usually into 6th gear as I'm just entering the right-hander there. So a couple mistakes on my part. Laust is now 0.9 seconds behind me, where he had been around 1.3, 1.4. And he does well under braking, gets it under a second, but we're on the last lap. So now it's just a question of keeping it safe, because as I was trying to say before I started commenting on the action, I just have to keep him behind me, which means he needs to find a safe place to pass, but All I have to do is keep fast enough so he can't pass me, and keep it safe, again, so he can't pass me. So last lap here, I'm not going to push it too hard, especially through this zone where there aren't too many passing opportunities. You know, knowing that he's 0.3 behind me here, it's alright, because I know he's not going to try to outbrake me into the downhill. Here's a problem, or a potential problem spot. I see 0.4 seconds behind me. That's probably safe enough under braking. Some people might be able to pull it off, but Laust goes for the safe path and stays behind me. He actually did it a little bit extra safe. He didn't have to leave me that much room, but I certainly appreciate it. I think at this point he probably decided that he was going to stick with 9th, or 8th rather, and not fight it out because, oh, my lower left panel has disappeared, so we'll just have to watch it from my view fully. 1.4 seconds behind me for Laust, so yes, he decided to stay safe and just finish where he was. So a pretty good race, unfortunately a little bit of damage, but otherwise a good time here at Infineon. Catch you next week.